So now, I'm going to kind of go quickly through here because I don't want to do many more slides, but I want to talk about kind of some of the, forensic analysis when we're dealing with a victim system and kind of some of the artifacts that we're going to be looking for. One of the key things you're going to need to worry about is kind of what is the functionality of the computer. That's going to tell you kind of what applications are running, what kind of activity you can expect from that system. You're also going to want to identify suspect user accounts, something that we've kind of done, at least on multiple, through almost every stage of this analysis process. And that's something that you're probably going to have to ask questions, right? Although we can probably verify that, that support user account is suspect based on some of the activity that they were doing. You will want to ask somebody, like, should this user be doing this, right? Because in some cases, some user may just have been, it may have been a legitimate user who's like, why are they accessing those things? Why are they running psexec and whatever else, right? This basically helps to narrow down your focus and kind of get you kind of more refined and to target the areas that you're most interested in, or the users that you're most interested in too. So some of the things that you also want to kind of look at is kind of how a piece of malware is running and what it's actually going to affect, right? So we kind of talked about auto-run keys, and we talked about the difference between kind of system auto-run, something that's going to run in the software registry hive, or a user auto-run, which is something that will run inside the user registry hive, so basically whenever the user logs in, as opposed to whenever the system powers on. And this is going to basically be like how they're actually running, the level they're actually running. If it's a user-based auto-run, it's only going to run when that user is logged in, right? Now that doesn't mean that it can't do activity across the entire system, but it's only available when that user logs in, right? As opposed to a system auto-run, which is going to be something that runs across all user accounts, across the entire system. So something to kind of be aware of and kind of differentiate, so you can this can help you to either narrow or broaden your analysis. So some of the common areas that you're going to deal with when you're dealing with persistence, registry autoruns we've talked about quite a bit, scheduled tasks we mentioned as well, browser helper objects I talked about, kind of things that are loaded into your web browser, as well as any sort of plugins that are used by that web browser. Kind of DLLs that are being hooked or kind of injected into processes, or something that's loaded as a service. I kind of glossed over this, I guess, quickly just now, right? Talking about kind of DLLs being injected into things, is that sometimes you'll have a process that'll replace the DLL, something that's like a legitimate Windows DLL, right? And it can replace that, and if it's something that's called by a lot of processes, then it's loaded into all the processes that call to it, right? In one case that I worked a while back, there was a case where they replaced IMM32.dll, which is basically, right, you could Google it and find out, but it's basically an application that's used for like user actions on the system or user interface, like interacting with applications and things like that. So it's basically loaded into everything, right? And they had modified that DLL to, basically call to something else and do whatever, right? I won't go into all the details. But because they had kind of modified and made changes to that DLL, which is loaded into everything, like their application was now seeing everything, every application. That's Internet Explorer, Explorer.exe, probably Command.exe or whatever else, WinLogon, so on and so forth. Like all of these different applications that it can now see activity for, right? And that could get them access to things like passwords, credentials, usernames and passwords, login passwords, so on and so forth.